Picture this scene for a second. It's cinematic, it's terrifying, and honestly, if you saw this in a movie, you'd assume it was high fantasy.
Oh, for sure.
You're standing in a desolate wilderness, there's absolutely nothing around you. And then right in the center of that emptiness, you see a woman. But she's not just any woman. She is dripping in purple and scarlet fabric, absolutely weighed down by gold, precious stones, and pearls. She just radiates wealth.
Like royalty.
Exactly, like royalty. But then your eyes pan down and you realize she isn't sitting on a throne. She is sitting on top of a scarlet monster. A beast with 7 heads and 10 horns.
It creates such a visceral reaction, doesn't it? It's violent, it's opulent, and it's deeply confusing if you don't know the code.
Exactly. And that is where we are starting today. It sounds like a fever dream, but we are actually looking at what might be the most, I don't know, chemically pure distillation of political and spiritual symbolism in the entire Bible.
That's a good way to put it.
We are doing a deep dive into Revelation chapter 17.
Which is often considered one of the toughest chapters to crack.
It is, but we have a guide. We are working from a source titled The Mystery of the Harlot and the Beast, which breaks down verses 1 through 18.
Okay.
And the mission today is pretty specific. I know for a lot of people, Revelation feels like a locked door, or maybe a Rorschach test where you just see whatever you're afraid of.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
But our goal is to take the key provided by this source material and just open it up. We want to understand who this woman is, what that beast represents, and frankly, why there is so much violence and gold mixed together in one image.
And what's fascinating about this deep dive is that while the imagery is incredibly dense, you have harlots, beasts, horns, mountains.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But the analysis we're looking at argues that the text actually provides a plain sense roadmap. It's not random.
So it interprets itself.
The source makes the case that it interprets itself if you just pay close attention to the details the angel gives.
So we aren't just guessing, we're decoding. Okay, let's jump right into the visuals because the setup here is important.
It really is.
The chapter opens with an invitation. John, the writer of Revelation, is approached by an angel. But this isn't just a random angel floating by, right?
No, context is everything here. The source points out that this is one of the 7 angels who had just held the 7 bowls of wrath.
Wow. So we are coming right off a scene of intense judgment. The atmosphere is heavy.
Very heavy. And this angel says to John, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters."
Okay, let's pause on that title immediately. The Great Harlot. That is aggressive. It's a heavy label. Are we talking about a literal person? A historical figure?
No, and the source is very emphatic about this. We are dealing with symbolism.
Okay.
The title, Great Harlot, isn't about a specific individual. It represents spiritual adultery. It's an image of a global, false religious system.
Unpack that term spiritual adultery for a second.
Well, throughout Scripture, the relationship between God and his people is often described as a marriage. It's all about covenant loyalty.
Right.
So when people or nations chase after false gods or idols or, prioritize power over truth, it's termed adultery or fornication.
So this woman is the embodiment of that spiritual unfaithfulness.
Exactly, but on a massive, organized scale.
And the angel adds a detail that gives us the scope of this. He says she sits on many waters. Now, if I'm just reading that cold, I'm picturing an ocean. Maybe she's an island queen.
It's easy to think that, but remember the plain sense roadmap we talked about?
Yeah.
If you look ahead to verse 15 of the same chapter, the angel actually tells John exactly what the waters mean.
So the answer is right there.
That's right there. The source points out that the waters symbolize peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues.
So she isn't sitting on the Pacific Ocean. She's sitting on
humanity. Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
It indicates worldwide influence.
Yeah.
There's domination over mass populations.
So it's a picture of a religious or spiritual system that has permeated every culture and every language. It's everywhere.
It's global.
That sets the scale. This isn't a local cult. This is global. And the text goes on to describe how she interacts with the world. It mentions 2 specific groups, the kings of the earth and the inhabitants of the earth.
Right.
And the dynamic is really different for each group, isn't it?
It is. It's transactional for the leaders and intoxicating for the masses.
How so?
The source notes that the kings of the earth, the world leaders, committed fornication with her. This symbolizes idolatry and political compromise.
So they are in bed with her.
Metaphorically, yes.
Yeah.
It's a partnership. Seduction by power and wealth. The leaders align themselves with this corrupt system to gain advantage.
Okay, so they use her influence to control people.
And she uses their power to maintain her status.
But then you have the regular people, the inhabitants. They aren't partners.
No, they are victims. The text says they were made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
Made drunk. That's a powerful metaphor.
Think about what happens when you're drunk. You aren't thinking clearly. Your judgment is impaired. You stumble.
You're vulnerable.
Exactly. The source explains that the world is intoxicated with luxury, immorality, and global deception. This system offers something that feels good, something that numbs you or excites you, but it leaves you spiritually incoherent.
So it's a deception that the general population just swallows whole.
Completely.
So the leaders are corrupt, using the system, and the people are deceived, drugged by the system.
That's it in a nutshell.
Now let's go back to that image I started with, the ride. Verse 3 says, John is carried away into the wilderness, and he sees this woman sitting on a scarlet beast.
And this is the crucial connection. The source identifies this scarlet beast as the Antichrist.
Okay.
It's the same beast described back in Revelation chapter 13.
And the text says this beast is full of names of blasphemy.
Which means it claims divine titles.
Yeah.
It usurps God's place.
So visually, you have this false religious system, the woman riding this political and military empire, the beast.
Yes. She is supported by it, and for a time, she seems to be directing it.
It's a power couple from hell, essentially.
Essentially, yes.
Let's talk about her fashion choices again, because the text spends a lot of time on the aesthetics. Arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls.
These are specific signals. Purple and scarlet were the colors of royalty and the ultra-wealthy in the ancient world. You couldn't buy that at the market.
Right.
And the jewels. That represents immense economic power. The source argues that she looks successful. She looks prosperous.
Yeah.
If you looked at her from the outside, you'd say, wow, that is glorious.
She doesn't look like a monster. She looks like a queen.
Exactly. But then look at her hands. She holds a golden cup.
Okay.
Again, on the outside, it looks holy, beautiful, expensive.
But inside?
Inside, the source notes it is full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication.
So a stark contrast. Externally, beauty and tradition.
And internally,
Yeah.
idolatry and moral filth. It's the ultimate bait and switch.
And then, as if the image wasn't striking enough, we get the name tag. Verse 5 says she has a name written on her forehead, and it's written in all caps in many translations. Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth.
That is quite a title to walk around with.
It really is.
And the source breaks this down. First, the placement ancient prostitutes sometimes wore their names on forehead bands, so it's identifying her trade.
Okay, that's a detail.
But the name itself, Mystery, Babylon. The source emphasizes that this isn't just the literal historical city of Babylon in Iraq. It's a symbolic name.
Because Babylon has a long rap sheet in the Bible.
It does. Babylon is always the archetype of organized rebellion against God. So she represents that spirit of rebellion. And notice she is the mother of harlots.
Meaning she's the parent.
Meaning she is the source. She gives birth to all the lesser corruptions we see. She is the fountainhead of global idolatry.
There is one more detail in this visual segment that really hit me when I was reading the source material.
How's that?
Verse 6, it says the woman is drunk, but not with wine. She is drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus.
This is the dark turn. She isn't just a seductress. She's a predator.
Right.
The source describes her as delighting in the death of God's people. The blood of believers fuels her system. And interestingly, the text says when John saw her, he marveled with great amazement.
Yeah, that word marveled usually means you're impressed. Like, wow, look at that. Was John impressed?
The source suggests he is shocked, almost paralyzed. He's stunned by the combination.
Of the beauty and the violence.
Exactly. He sees this incredible beauty, wealth, and global power, but it's dripping with the blood of the saints. It's the magnitude of the deception that something so evil could look so magnificent that leaves him flabbergasted.
So John is standing there, jaw on the floor, staring at this woman and this beast, and the angel basically says, "Why are you so surprised? Let me explain it to you."
Yeah, let me break it down for you.
And this is where we get into segment 2 of our deep dive, the history, because the angel starts dropping timelines.
Right. The angel promises to explain the mystery of the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns. And he starts with what sounds like a riddle.
A riddle.
Verse 8 describes the beast as the one who was and is not and will ascend.
Was and is not and will ascend. It sounds like a logic puzzle. What does the source say this means?
It's describing a counterfeit resurrection.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. We know Christ died and rose again. The Antichrist, the beast, mimics this. The source explains. Was means he was alive. Is not means he appeared dead.
Okay.
And will ascend means he returns, empowered by Satan, coming out of the bottomless pit.
So it's a fake miracle, a demonic resurrection.
Exactly. And the source notes that the earth dwellers, the unbelievers, will marvel at this. They wouldn't believe in the true resurrection, but they're totally deceived by this apparent one.
But his destiny is sealed.
It is. The text is quick to add his destiny. He ascends from the pit, but he goes to perdition.
Perdition means destruction, right?
Specifically, the lake of fire. His comeback is temporary.
Okay, let's tackle the 7 heads. This is the part that usually confuses people. Verse 9 says, the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. Now, I've heard people say this refers to Rome because Rome is the city on 7 hills.
And the source acknowledges that connection. It says the 7 mountains represent worldly political power, historically associated with Rome.
Right.
But it doesn't stop there. The source is careful to point out verse 10, which says there are also 7 kings.
Ah, so the symbol has a dual meaning. It's mountains and kings.
Exactly. And kings here means empires.
Empires, okay.
The source lists them out to show the historical span. The angel says, 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. This is a timeline of the major empires that have persecuted God's people.
So let's walk through the list provided by the source. Who are the 5 that have fallen?
Based on the history of Israel, the source lists Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, and Greece. Those are the 5 superpowers that had risen and fallen by the time John was writing.
And the 1 is?
That would be Rome. That was the empire in power when John was receiving this vision on Patmos.
Okay, so that's 6. Who is the 7th?
The 7th is the final empire. The text says it has not yet come, and when it does, it will continue only a short time.
But wait, we were talking about the beast being an 8th king in verse 11. How do we get to 8 if there are only 7 heads?
This is where it gets really interesting. Verse 11 says the beast is the 8th and is of the 7.
Of the 7?
The source interprets this as the Antichrist emerging from that final 7th empire to become a unique ruler himself.
So he's part of the system, but he rises above it.
He rises above it to become this ultimate final dictator, the 8th king.
Who is also going to perdition.
Exactly. Even with all that complexity, the destination remains the same. Destruction.
So we have the woman, we have the beast, and we have this timeline of empires leading up to the Antichrist. Now we get to the plot twist. And honestly, I think this is the most shocking part of the chapter. We need to talk about the 10 horns.
Verse 12 tells us the 10 horns are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet. So these are future rulers at the time of the vision.
And it says they receive authority for 1 hour with the beast. I'm guessing that's not a literal 60 minutes.
No, not at all. 1 hour is symbolic of a very short time. It's a brief, intense period of authority.
But the key here is their relationship with the beast, isn't it?
It is. Verse 13 says these 10 kings are of one mind.
Of one mind, that implies unity.
Total unity. They have a single purpose.
And what is that purpose?
To give their power and authority to the beast. They voluntarily hand over their sovereignty to the Antichrist.
Whoa.
It's a global consolidation of power. They look at this leader and say, you take the reins.
That is terrifying. 10 leaders, completely unified, handing the keys of the world over to one guy. And what do they do with that power?
They pick a fight. Verse 14 says, these will make war with the Lamb.
That seems like a bad idea.
It's a worst idea. This is essentially the Battle of Armageddon.
Yeah.
Try to fight Christ.
And how does that go for them?
The source puts it very simply. The Lamb will overcome them. Why? Because he is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. It's not even a contest.
So it's over before it starts.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The source notes that Christ defeats them effortlessly, alongside his followers who are described as called, chosen, and faithful.
So the external war is a total loss for them, but there's an internal war too, right? This is the betrayal I mentioned.
This is it.
We spent all this time establishing that the woman, the harlot, is riding the beast. They seem like partners. She's benefiting from his power. But then verse 16 happens.
Yes, this is the big twist. Verse 16 says the 10 horns and the beast will hate the harlot.
They hate her.
They turn on her completely. The language is incredibly violent.
Yeah.
It says they will make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh and burn her with fire.
Whoa, eat her flesh. That is grotesque.
It signifies total destruction. The source explains that the Antichrist and these 10 kings eventually turn against the religious and political system they used to rise to power.
So they strip her of her influence.
Take her naked, and they destroy her.
Why would they do that? I thought they were on the same team.
Well, the expert analysis here is that it's about power. The Antichrist wants total worship for himself. He doesn't want to share the stage with a religious system anymore.
So he uses the harlot to get to the top.
And once he's there, he destroys the harlot to consolidate absolute power. Evil eventually consumes itself.
But there's an even deeper layer to the why, isn't there? If we look at verse 17, the text gives us a reason that is frankly mind-blowing.
This is the theological anchor of the whole chapter. Why do the 10 kings give their power to the beast? Why do they destroy the harlot? Verse 17 says, "For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose."
God put it into their hearts. That sounds like a paradox.
It does. Even in their rebellion, even in their wickedness, they are fulfilling God's prophecy.
So God is orchestrating it.
The source states that God orchestrates the actions of these wicked rulers to fulfill his words. He uses their evil desires, their lust for power, their hatred, to bring judgment on Babylon, the very system they created.
So they think they are seizing power. They think they're destroying the old system to build their own empire, but really?
They are just executing God's judgment on the harlot.
Yeah.
Exactly. It highlights God's absolute sovereignty.
So the chaos of history isn't actually chaos.
No. It's moving towards a defined conclusion. God is writing the script, even for the villains.
So we've seen the woman, the beast, the history, and the destruction. We're reaching the end of the chapter. Verse 18 gives us a final identity check.
A final confirmation.
And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth.
This confirms everything we've discussed. Mystery Babylon is that great city, a mix of a religious system and an economic political center that wields global influence.
Until she's destroyed.
Until she is destroyed.
This has been quite a journey through just 18 verses. We've gone from a woman on a monster to a global war and a divine plot twist.
It's a dense chapter.
It is. If we have to boil this down for the listener, what is the big takeaway from this source material?
I think the core message the source drives home is that evil is self-destructive. You have this terrifying alliance between the harlot and the beast, but it ends with the beast tearing the harlot apart.
They can't stand.
They cannot stand. And ultimately, despite the scary imagery of beasts and horns and global corruption, the Lamb wins.
Right.
The conflict in verse 14 is decisive. The Lord of Lords overcomes.
That's a comforting thought. No matter how crazy the geopolitical situation looks, the ending is already written.
Absolutely.
But before we go, I know you always like to leave us with something to chew on. What's the provocative thought for this deep dive?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, I keep thinking about those 10 kings in verse 13. The text emphasizes that they are of one mind. They have perfect unity. And usually, in our modern world, we think of unity as the ultimate good. We want consensus.
Right, united we stand.
Exactly. But here, their unity is used to voluntarily hand over their power to a beast. They trade their authority for what? Security, power, a place at the table.
That's a good point. They give it up willingly.
They do. And it raises a question for us. What does this suggest about the dangerous allure of trading freedom for security in moments of crisis? The source highlights their one mind, but that unity led directly to destruction. It's a reminder that consensus isn't always truth, and sometimes the easiest path, just handing over control to the strong man, is the most dangerous one.
Consensus isn't always truth. That is definitely something to think about. We're going to wrap it up there. We hope this deep dive helped you decode the mystery of the harlot and the beast.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.